Welcome to the TFW podcast. That's freaking wrestling. Episode 21. I am your host, Matt. And joining me, as always, Rhodesia and Eshaun. Lady and gentlemen, give me the good word. What is going on?
It's Friday night.
It is.
What we're talking about is going to be Friday.
We are actually taping right in the middle of SmackDown. So I'm able to talk about two things that we've seen so far. But yeah, this episode came out a little late, so our apologies for that. Typically, we drop Friday morning. You guys are going to get this one late Friday night. Probably the majority of you are listening to it on Saturday. But hey, it is what it is. We are here now, lock and loaded. Eshaun, what is going on, man?
What's going on, family? I'm good. Ready to talk some wrestling.
Fantastic. Let's get the sad news out of the way. And seems like, man, the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've had some type of death in the wrestling community. But we did lose another legend this past Tuesday. Jerry Jarrett passed away at the age of 80. If you don't know who Jerry Jarrett is, I don't remember much of his work because I did not watch. I think he ran Deep South, if I'm not mistaken, or NWA back in the day. Of course, I was all
USWA.
Yeah, I was all, of course, WWF back in the day when I was, a kid. But legendary wrestling promoter. He was the wrestler, of course, and the father of Jeff Jarrett, which was really cool to see Jarrett be able to wrestle and start off Dynamite this Wednesday. So I'm sure that probably did his heart some really, really, really good. But Jerry Jarrett did pass away, like I said, of the age of 80. So thoughts and prayers to Jarrett and their family. Eshaun, I know you were, of course, much more enthralled into TNA when that started. You used to order the weekly pay-per-views when they were like $10 a week. Anything you want to talk about with maybe his influence on Impact and TNA back then?
Well, to be honest, my influence goes even further back than that. I used to watch USWA. I'm not sure how I used to watch it, but I remember really enjoying that show, seeing Jerry Lawler's son, Brian Christopher. At the time, I thought he was going to be like the next big thing, man. Had a great look. Jeff Jarrett, that was where he first started. Looked phenomenal. A dude named Eric Embry was like this little fat roly-poly guy, but the crowd loved him. And I think Jerry was running that promotion. And then when the Jarretts started TNA, I was hoping that was going to be the successor to WCW. And he had of course, he was a huge, partner in that. So I haven't seen any of his wrestling, but as far as the territories that he booked, much respect for everything he's done in his career.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I don't remember. Maybe like I've watched a couple of matches or so, but it was never weekly appointment viewing for me back then. So once again, thoughts and prayers to the entire Jarrett family. And it may be thoughts and prayers to AEW if the news that hit today has any credence to it. The news that hit today is the WWE is reportedly interested in signing Kenny Omega away from AEW. Word is that WWE was also reportedly interested in Jay White, but there is said to be a much bigger major free agent in play. A person is said to be Kenny Omega, and WWE thinks that they can get him from AEW. Of course, we know, hey, if Cody left, anybody can leave.
Sure. Yeah.
But what is your guys' thoughts just on the fact of, hey, when Kenny's contract is up, and there are some conversations on when his contract is actually up. Some people think it was up in a few weeks. Some people think that Tony is going to add on those months where he was out injured, so it won't be up until later on this year. But just kind of thoughts on just, hey, Kenny Omega going to WWE, do you think it's a possibility?
Absolutely. Again, and once Cody went over, I never would have thought he would have went over back to WWE. Absolutely. I think that this is a possibility. So it sounds like you said his contract is up this year, and even if they add on the months he was gone, it still will be by the end of this year.
Well, yeah, no, if they do not add that time on, I think it's up in a few weeks.
Holy moly. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. Answer your question. Yes, I absolutely think that he could go over to WWE.
Very interesting news. I hadn't heard this, to be honest with you, but I'm going to go ahead and say he stays in AEW. To be 100% honest with you, you know, like if you follow Cody's story, like, it kind of makes sense that he will go back to WWE. And you know, what was the joke? And even Kenny said it on Cody's way out that it was the Codyverse and everything else.
Yeah.
Like right, like Cody definitely had a different vibe than the rest of that roster. But however, Kenny just doesn't seem like a natural fit for WWE and what they do, honestly. Not from a promo style or even an in-ring style in a lot of different ways. And I'm not sure that the WWE audience would know who he was, right? Because they have millions of casual fans that aren't into New Japan. They may not watch AEW, probably don't watch AEW. So yes, he'll get a big pop from like the hardcore fans like us. We'll know who he is, but I'm just not 100% sure that Kenny would be a great fit. Not saying he can't fit, because at the end of the day, to be honest with you, AJ Styles, since he went to WWE,
right,
he's been doing the best work of his career, and I follow him forever. I saw all his TNA stuff, and he's a bigger draw, a better promo, a better character, has better presence than he ever did in TNA. He was a wrestler that really, really, really transitioned well to WWE. So could he follow AJ's footsteps and have a different renaissance of the Kenny Omega character? That might be the discussion point.
So yeah, I mean, I had tweeted out on Monday after that, once again, fantastic promo segment with Cody and Sammy. I know you guys have all seen it by now, but I tweeted out right after that. I said, as a fan of AEW, them losing Cody Rhodes sucked. As a fan of wrestling, though, it's the best thing that could have happened. He's presented as a massive star and has delivered in every spot he's been given incredible stuff. So that's the way I felt after watching that promo segment, because we just wouldn't have gotten that level out of Cody, I think, in AEW. Who cares whose fault it is? I see a lot of discourse on social media of, well, hey, Cody has some type of creative control, and that's why his stuff looked different than everybody else. I don't, whatever on that. I'm just looking at what is being presented in front of my eyes right now. And it's that Cody is the biggest star in WWE right now, minus Roman, minus probably Sammy, right? It's those three, which is fantastic, because that is who is at the top of the card right now, and then kind of everybody else jockeying for position. So if Kenny was to go to WWE, let's play along and say he does, right? Let's just say that Triple H gives him a offer he can't refuse. Do you see I'm going to say career renaissance like Cody has gotten from WWE? Because even before Cody got hurt, yeah, it was, he was back. It was great. It was more of that wow factor that, wow, he's back in WWE. He had the feud with Seth, but it was nothing to the level of what we're seeing right now. Albeit just the emotional promos, albeit because he's in the main event spot for WrestleMania against Roman Reigns. I guess we'll see
you mean
here
Cody's character
in the next 24 hours. Yeah. Okay. So could we see Kenny completely supersede anything we've seen out of him in AEW? Or if he did go to WWE, would it just be potentially the best version of what we've already seen from Kenny Omega?
Well, I still don't feel like I've seen anything of New Japan Kenny in AEW. So to answer that question that you just asked, absolutely, we will see a different side of Kenny. Well, actually probably won't, because I don't think that style of WWE will welcome kind of the style he was in New Japan. But I've always felt that the Kenny Omega in AEW is like Kenny Omega light. Not trying to not come in at any rate as far as like how he works. It's just that it's not as explosive. And then he got hurt. He was hurt for quite some time. So I know that added to it. But I just never saw Kenny the way I did in New Japan as he was in AEW, or as he is currently in AEW.
I want to give him I want to give Kenny a pass on his in-ring, because like all the reports came out and you listen to his interviews. He was dealing with a lot of injuries, and kudos to him for being able to perform at the level he did, with those injuries. But to answer your question, I mean, honestly, I think we have to see a different Cody. I think we have to see a different Cody than we saw in New Japan. I don't think that style and presentation transfers over to the U.S. audience.
Cody or Kenny?
Oh, 100% Kenny. Like,
okay,
we know what Cody can do. Yeah, we know what Cody can do. Like Cody's Cody he was born in that system. We know what he can do. But no, Kenny, I think that he will have to do like an AJ Styles. I think that he will have to just go there and it just click. His promo will have to change, and maybe it will. And maybe not his in-ring style because those guys can go in the ring, right? There's a different pace in the WWE style, but Seth Rollins, that guy goes. Kevin Owens, those guys go. Like it's not like 10, 15 years ago where there was this WWE style and it was these slow party. No, these guys are going in the ring. We see in the NXT. But I think from a character standpoint, absolutely he'll have to find something different than we've seen. Because that WWE audience, sure, we like work rate, but it's all about character, presence, and promo there. So he definitely will have to kind of show us something different.
Yeah, I think it would have to be closer to the NJPW Kenny Omega than the AEW Kenny Omega that we've seen. So all that could be for nothing. Tony could scoop him up and, sign him for another 3 or 4 year deal. We just had a 9-minute conversation about something that did not happen, but it is absolutely something to keep an eye on because I think the Bucks contract is also coming up relatively soon. So it's going to be super exciting to see how that plays itself out. Anything on that before I throw it to Rhodesia for her Black History moment that she wanted to hit for this week?
As far as what? As far as AEW or what?
No, as far as the Cody, the Kenny piece.
I'm going to just see how this plays out.
No, wait a minute, guys. This is becoming a weekly thing, and I knew it was going to happen, right? Matt's putting up all these polls, talking about he don't want to see Cody at this Mania main event, and he's praising them all over the place. You know what? I want you to call the Breakfast Club, and I want you to apologize. I want you to apologize to me. I want you to apologize to Cody and the Breakfast Club for being a Cody-ass hater.
And I did another poll this past Monday, too, so I'll just kind of go over that. So right after that fantastic segment with Cody and Sammy, I put a poll up and said, thinking about only the main event of WrestleMania and nothing else. After all, what would you want to see the most as your WrestleMania main event? I gave it Roman versus Cody, Cody versus Sammy, and Roman versus Cody versus Sammy in the triple threat. The last option was Cody versus Roman at 13%. Second option was the triple threat at 33%. And then the top option at 54% was Roman versus Cody. So people definitely have love for the triple threat and just the one-on-one. So it's working. Right? We talked, 2 weeks ago, the poll was, will you be as emotionally invested in Cody as you are with Sammy in the Bloodline? And I think that one was almost 50-50. I think Rhodesia was like, nope. I said, no, I wouldn't be. I'm still not, just because we're talking 9 months worth of programming that we've seen with Roman and Sammy. But so far, they have not missed at all in each and every segment. And I'm still going to be cheering for Roman and booing Cody April 2nd.
You're going to call up here and you're going to apologize.
All right, Ray J, I hear you. EJ.
EJ.
Speaking of, you know what? That was absolutely Black history for the Breakfast Club when Ray J caught up there, but we're not talking about that kind of Black history. Rhodesia, what is your Black history moment you wanted to highlight for Black History Month of anything in wrestling that really got to you?
All right. So it was Saturday night in Florida, Tampa Bay, Florida, on April 10th, I think. And it was the first ever women's main event, 2 Black women. Ooh, where's that applause at? You got to put that out there.
Oh, I was waiting for you to say who the women were involved. You haven't given us. Yeah, I was trying to like get you to say what the match was, and then I was gonna hit you with the applause. You still haven't said it.
Okay, no, you can do the applause after I say their names too, because I want you to applause after I say each name. So it was Bianca Belair, challenger, versus Sasha Banks, the champion at the time.
Sasha Banks.
Oh my goodness. We weren't there. I've been so freaking spoiled and blessed in life that, I've been able to go to a lot of different WrestleManias. We weren't there. I think that was the first one back to a crowd. So I wasn't there in person, but I felt it. I had all the goosies. It was such a beautiful, special moment. you felt their energy when they first started the match, how emotional they were. And that's something that, I could have brought up, Jacqueline winning the women's heavyweight championship back in 98, but I wasn't watching then. I had just started watching wrestling right after that happened. But I'm just going off of, what was memorable to me and what I felt and how proud I was in that moment. So again, applause to both of those ladies. Thank you. And they showed out that night too. And what a wonderful way. Because for a moment, I thought maybe they weren't going to main event. And then as the card kind of went through on night, we're like, yep, they got the main event spot. So that was my Black History moment.
And that's a fantastic one. And I remember probably the biggest memory for me was, and in the African-American community, like words matter, right? Like for Michael Cole to say, this is the first ever match with 2 Black women main eventing. It was like, okay, he didn't say African American, and because that matters, he said Black, and it's like, wow, that's super, super cool. So yeah, that was a fantastic one. So
and then
last
that
week,
was actually the beginning, really quickly. That was the beginning of what we're seeing in the beginning of the stardom of Bianca Belair. Since then, like she's just been killing it. I mean,
she's been on fire.
Again, bravo to Sasha Banks Mercedes for dancing with her that night and making her look great as well. But I'm just so happy. That was a really proud moment to be a Black woman for me to be able to see. And I would say just for anybody who was a wrestling fan, they should be proud of that moment.
So E had Ron Simmons last week. Rhodesia, you had Bianca and Sasha this week. Spoiler alert, next week, mine will be where another champion was crowned at WrestleMania that we were actually in the building for a few years ago. So shout out to all these fantastic Black History moments.
Yes.
Word comes out today also. Vince McMahon is looking for $9 billion, and that is billion dollars to sell WWE. The company currently is valued at $6 billion. Do you guys think he gets $9 billion? And do you think he gets it without selling it to the Saudis?
So first part of the question, I'm going to say probably not $9 billion. This is part of negotiation. If you're saying that he's have a current evaluation of 6, this is probably just to land somewhere around 7.5. And the answer to the second question, I don't know who has money like that out there. I don't know what companies, who can. So I guess just because of the little bit I know about that side of it, I would say only probably the Saudis could afford to do that.
Hey, I echo exactly what Rhodesia says. It's negotiation. But sometimes, look, I'm not going to get too personal about different things, but just for me in life, sometimes you got to shoot for the stars. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to just go out there and put your number out there. And sometimes people will say yes, right? Yeah. So maybe he does get 9. Maybe somebody does have the pocketbook for it. I don't know who that's going to be. But to be honest with you, I don't really care. Man, I just want to know, can Triple H stay head of talent? And
that's going to be the big
and storylines. That's all I want to know. And can we get Vince to make sure, can we negotiate a clause that he can never, ever touch the pencil again? Ever. So if I can get Triple H head of creative, Vince out of creative, I don't care. Well, let me take that back. I do. Well, yeah. But outside of like the people we don't want to have it, as long as those things are happening, I'm good.
What about you?
Yeah, I think $9 billion is a lot to ask for, especially when the company's valued at like 6 billion. So I definitely think it's a situation where he's going to raise the number, one, so he can be involved longer than not, probably in negotiations, but also to both of your guys' points. Hey, if I know it's worth 6.5, if I can get 8, why not ask for 9?
Yeah. Why not?
Why not? So we'll see. But yeah, that came out today too, that he is looking for $9 billion to sell the company. Last week we talked about Bron Breakker, and I gave my little essay on, I think he needs to do more. I think he's not where he needs to be. I think he'll be fine. We kind of talked about that, but it's not where he should be right now, and the position that he's in needs to be more. Turn on NXT Tuesday night. Boy, oh boy, was that crowd on his head.
They were kind of mean to him. I ain't gonna lie.
Hit him with the Bron Breakker sucks in terms of the John Cena.
Bron Breakker
in his chant, Jinder Mahal came out there and gave him the business, and I loved it because Jinder pushed him in that promo. He really did. And I really enjoyed that just to see how Bron will react to some type of, angst there. So it's starting to happen, right? Now at this point, we know I'm not on an island. I think you guys even agree too, like, hey, it's not the best, but it's not the worst. What I thought was interesting was Booker T on his podcast this week. I have a quick quote. I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. Booker T says, "One piece of advice I can give Bron Breakker is you might need to listen to the fans. You can't get complacent in the business and think that the fans are going to stick with you. The one thing that you need to make it to the next level is the fans. The fans dictate everything. The one thing with Bron Breakker is that he's got like one gear. He needs to figure out when he's riding in first, second, third, fourth, and when he needs to shift into fifth. That's something that right now he's in that mode to where he's learning that." To me, when I read that quote, that tells me that Booker agrees with the fans and agrees with me that Bron's not doing enough right now. Still giving him, of course, some rope to say like, hey, he's still learning, which of course he's learning. But I thought that quote was pretty interesting for him to kind of say, hey, you probably need to listen to the fans. You're not where you should be or where you need to be right now.
But that's a little bit not fair because don't listen to the fans. I don't think he's purposely not trying to be the face of NXT. I think that's just aren't there producers and mentors back there that's supposed to help with developing them?
Oh, yeah.
And learning that kind of stuff. So I think it's a little bit flawed just in that comment of you need to listen to the fans. Like, how? Bron Breakker suck. What can he do from that? So the only thing I think he can do is learn what he just said, learn the different gears, the many different facets of your character. I don't know. I just think he needs to leave NXT. No, I'm serious. And then he could pick up some of that with the veteran and seasoned in, WWE.
Yeah, those are very telling comments, right? That Booker put out there. But like Booker also is a master. He tells stories, right? He works. Like, I think there's always like a line that he kind of walks as far as telling his honest opinion, but also working. But going back to Bron, I just feel like he's very young in the business. And I think he plateaued hard, right? He got to a certain, let's say, level really quickly and quicker than probably people expected. And especially when you turned on 2.0, what was it? What has it been, a year and a half?
Yeah, it's been over a year.
It's been over a year.
He was so further along than everybody else that they were pushing at that time, outside of, Melo, right?
Right.
He was so far along and he got up there so quick, but that happens at times. That happens when sometimes guys, they get to a certain spot and they kind of stay there and they need something else to kind of push them over. Now, we don't know anything about his work ethic, what he's doing behind the scenes, how he's training or any of those things to see if he's put in the necessary work to get better. I would assume he is because he's had the championship for quite some time. So if he was a lazy guy, not putting in the work, I assume they would took the belt off of him. But I think what they need to do from a creative standpoint with them, and they kind of did with Mandy for a little bit. They let these people hold on to the titles a little bit, and they haven't really put him in jeopardy, right? Like he's kind of been booked as a dominant champion, but he hasn't been working like a dominant champion. So I think from a creative standpoint, they need to do something a little bit different with them. Maybe he needs to advance his character anyway. Cause that's what I keep talking about. For me, it's all about character and persona. And maybe he needs to be a little bit more of the dominant champion, get a little bit more of an edge, do a little bit more than the Rick and Scott Light, right? Like really, truly honing on his character. And maybe that might take him to the next gear.
That's a good call. Yeah. I think they have Stand and Deliver Mania weekend, him and Melo. One of them are going to the main roster after that match.
I would agree.
I'm just going to assume Melo's going to win the NXT championship because that would be a great stamp on his trajectory just throughout NXT and WWE. So then you look at Bron to go, but I think Melo is by far more ready for the main roster with Trick than where Bron is right now. Yeah, but I also think that there's nothing more for Bron to do in NXT. In that situation, I don't think he gets any better. He's got to start working with much more talented people than him to get those reps in and kind of get all that. So we'll see. But I did think those I thought that quote was really telling because without Booker saying it, Booker saying the fans are right. Like, dude, it's time to start. So you got to step it up. So thought that was pretty interesting. Something else that I thought was interesting. I'm sitting there watching. It had to be. I don't know if I was watching SmackDown last Friday or I was watching Dynamite this past Wednesday. And I got to thinking, we talked a lot about Saraya. Eshaun, you have said your point clear. You hate the way she's been presented, the way she's been used. We get it. I started thinking about Bray and how he's been used since he's been back. So I got a question for both of you. Only think about the matches they've had and the stories they have told so far. Okay, so nothing else. Whose return has been better? Bray Wyatt since he's been back, or Saraya?
So that's so good because you said better. And again, what are we basing it off of? And you had mentioned kind of the storyline that they had. I'm going to have to say Bray only because I'm more engaged in that story. I'm more engaged with Uncle Howdy. I was able to see real quick before we started recording Uncle Howdy actually getting physical in the ring. So that story itself to me is more entertaining and I'm more engaged and I care more about Bray's story than Saraya turning heel and all this other stuff going on. So I'm going to have to go based off of who has me more engaged into their story, and that's Bray.
Man, like, it's not even a question for me. You already know what it is. It's Bray all day. I know I said that there's been some moments in Bray's story that, it felt flat for me, but I'll take that over anything I've seen from the what story Saraya has been doing. I don't know what her story's been. It's been all over the place. I mean, I don't know what's going on with that woman. I just felt like from the get-go that her return should have been with WWE. Because she's from that product. She's born and raised there. And I think she should have moved back. H would have put her in a better position. Absolutely. From a story standpoint, Bray all day. Bray all day, especially towards the end. I'm not really maybe I'm missing what he's doing right now. Because sometimes I do fast forward. I might fast forward through a couple of things too quickly. But especially the last couple of weeks leading up to that Mountain Dew match, I thought it was some good stuff. And I actually liked the Mountain Dew match outside of the blotch elbow drop from Uncle Howdy. And that was Uncle Howdy. That wasn't Bray. So for me, 100%, Bray has had the better return, as I knew it would be.
So I am going to go against both of you.
No way.
And I'm going to say it's not even close.
No way.
It's Saraya's story and her return. Both of you guys both brought up Bray's story. Oh, man, Bray's story is so great. Pop quiz to either one of you, both of you, and we can take all day. What has happened since Bray's been back?
We have
you guys tell me about the story. No. So don't bring up anything with how great entrances look and how just incredible things are on the screen when he's there. Let's I said matches or stories. His story. What is Bray's story so far that he's done since he's been back in October?
So his story is that there's actually an Uncle Howdy. There's actually a physical Uncle Howdy. Prior to that, we didn't know that there was a physical Uncle Howdy.
Okay, so all right, so that's your answer. My rebuttal to that would be he came back in October. So we got October, November, December, January. So 5 months of story. Your best answer just now was, Uncle Howdy's a real person.
Well, because you just said I can't bring up matches. I can't bring up other stuff.
No, not saying you can bring up matches. You just can't bring up like, he has one of the coolest entrances in the world or like that. Like Saraya's story has been, she came back from injury. She took on arguably the most popular wrestler in AEW. She has now turned heel and they're starting a outsider, storyline. There's things that we can point to. As of right now, there's nothing you can point to. And I've enjoyed Bray since he's been back. But in the 5 months he's been here, I don't think they've really accomplished anything.
Well, we're just going to have to agree to disagree.
Hey, Rhodesia, Matt's still sick. See, this flu started a long time ago, right? Because there's no way. Look, I told you a couple weeks ago, we went to that live show and the crowd erupted when Bray Wyatt came out there. We popped huge when he came out there. When Saraya comes on your TV, the crowd gets quiet. I had to check to make sure my volume was working. To be honest with you, the other night,
Sheesh.
man.
So
I thought
hold on a
they
second.
had
So
the TV on mute. So
the crowd
you
also erupts when Goldberg comes out every time. You taking Goldberg
Oh,
in a match
gosh.
in
That's how
2023? You absolutely are not taking Goldberg. So let's not just talk about crowd reaction. But like I said, we'll agree to disagree. But you guys can't tell me anything
Well,
from Bray's story
yes,
so far. And
yes,
you also
I
just
can.
said you
This
fast
is-
forward through them. You
this-
don't
this
even
is-
know what happened.
This
You
this
fast
is like
forward through it.
this is the worst take you've had in years, man. Like I think he was sick weeks ago. That's why I was wondering why he asked this question. I'm like, this is like a no brainer. Like, right? I'm like, what are we talking about?
Okay, so then, and we'll move on after this because I do want to bring up Ring of Honor.
Hold on, before you say something, I think maybe your question could have been more along the lines of who had a, I don't even know how to word it, but
You can't clean it up.
Who-
No, it's no.
yeah, no.
good.
What I'm saying, well, who has opened up more of the story? Like who actually has been more purposeful? There we go. Who's been more purposeful in their return? And that'd be the only way that I would say yes, Saraya would be because of
And it's
everything
still
you
not
just
Saraya.
mentioned.
And it's still not Saraya.
But she's part of it and she's spearheading it. So I would have to give that to Saraya. But just overall, who had a better return? You can't argue. It is Bray who's had a better return. And it has been 5 months that he's been back and nobody's saying that it's stale yet. So if
And
he's
nothing
telling
has
us-
happened in those 5 months.
But it doesn't
Have you
matter.
checked
his
because
temperature?
Nothing
Because
has happened in
bro-
those 5 months. Once again,
Bro,
I am entertained. I am entertained with the over the top entrances and then his Muppets coming back to life. But then I thought they were done for and all that. And then tonight, which actually I got pretty excited about, he put Brock and Bobby on notice.
Yep.
He
sure
came
did.
out with Uncle Howdy, cleared out Hit Row, which man, Hit Row again just got like, come on,
Okay,
man. Like,
let's keep going. Let's keep going.
and he said, hey, whoever wins, Brock, Bobby, run. All right, so now I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued for Mania to see what that looks like. Because I definitely didn't think they were going in that direction for WrestleMania with him. But like I said, we'll agree, disagree. You guys said your piece. I said my piece.
Hey,
So
do me a favor. What I didn't hear you tell me is what's so good about Saraya that you wanted to talk about. What's a moment that's really grabbed you as a fan? Give me.
no, because actually the way I originally had that question was whose return has been the worst. That was originally how I had the question. Then I switched it and said, hey, I want to have a positive spin on it, positivity. So I went with better. But I think both of them have had some misses on it. But if you're talking about just strictly, that's why I said story and matches. I think Saraya has ticked more boxes in terms of her matches she's had. I mean, she's had, 3 or 4 matches to Bray's 1 on TV so far. I mean, he's had 1 match out of 5 months. And our story hasn't progressed. He came out and said that Uncle Howdy is not me. Uncle Howdy's a real person. We figured that we found that out in November or December, and like we haven't gone any farther with it. Once again, I'm enjoying it. I think it's entertaining, but overall, when you look at it and say, man, he's been back for 5 months, and we're kind of in the same spot we were when he first showed up at Extreme Rules. That was all.
Next topic.
Ring of Honor. Eshaun's favorite TV show that I'm sure he is clamoring for. Thursday, March 2nd on Honor Club. Tony Khan announced that a few days ago. So now we are getting AEW Dynamite on Wednesday, Ring of Honor on Thursday, AEW Rampage on Friday. So they are taking 3 consecutive days toward the end of the week. I am not going to order Honor Club day one. It's $10 a month. I'm going to wait and see what that product looks like. I think that Tony needs to get Dynamite and Rampage. Dynamite has been fantastic. This past week was a dud. Whatever. We've given Raw plenty of duds, so I'm not going to trip on one episode. We've talked about how great Dynamite has been over the last few weeks. Rampage is a different story. We'll talk about that a little bit toward the end of the pod here on kind of what your guys' thoughts about Rampage. I got some numbers to kind of go over with you guys. But for me, that's where I really wish all of his effort and energy was toward. It's not. Now we know Ring of Honor is starting. I think they're actually taping next week, I believe, for that. But March 2nd is the first episode. So, Eshaun, how excited are you? And I'm sure you'll be getting it week 1, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and get it, man. I like to try wrestling. I try it all. Man, I'm scared. Tony,
In
I'm
what
scared,
regard?
man. this ROH thing, man. I mean, there was a time period for me as a fan of AEW and Tony Khan in general. I'm like, man, this dude just don't miss. Like, man, he's just everything just knocks it out. Man, of course, I've always had some things about his character and how the pace of the show and stories, things of that nature. But it just seemed like he just didn't miss. And I feel like this ROH he's been swinging and missing like the whole way, man. Like, it's rough, man. Like I want to try it, like, because I want to support the product. I want more opportunities for the guys and gals, and I'm hoping. I'm not sure if I'm jumping shark too quick, man, but I'm loving Mark Briscoe, and his character. Like I'm a big man. His interview, I think it was last week, leading up to the match this week, man. Like he just shows so much personality and charisma. I'm like, man, you know what? I think I wanted him as my champion of ROH.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be a great. I want to see ROH just so I can see more of him. I think he's just such a fascinating character.
Did you see the one from this week after he had the one with what's her name? Lexi Sky? Is that her name? The backstage interviewer. Yeah, he had one after he won.
Yeah.
And did you see that one? He put the hat on and he said 2-0, baby. I'm looking for some pie.
Man, he is such a character. He has so much personality, man.
What are you looking for?
He's looking for some gold. He's looking for some gold.
Oh,
man,
titles
so
is what he said. Okay.
Yeah. I'm looking for some gold, baby.
So if I can see more of him, I think that's a win, man. So yeah, I'm gonna try to. I'm worried for the show, but I'm hoping I can see more of him. Shane Taylor, shouts out to him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I am concerned though.
I'm just like to know what they're forecasting for what is a successful year one for them. I'm really wanting to know that. Like, are they saying like 10,000, 5,000 subscribers is a good year one for them? I just really like to know what their goals and projections are.
That's a good question.
Especially if they don't do anything with a streaming network or platform besides Honor Club.
Right.
Yeah. It's a good question. I don't know. One thing we do know is Revolution is starting to shape up, which, thank goodness, it is in 2 weeks. So I would hope so. The matches so far are confirmed. We have MJF and Bryan Danielson for a 60-minute Iron Man match. We got Samoa Joe versus Wardlow. Shout out to Wardlow with that fantastic personal promo he had on Wednesday with JR. We have the 4-way tag team match, which right now we just have the Gun Club and the Acclaim. We're going to get the other two.
Gun, right? Oh, no, that's Hype.
Well, no.
Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it could be in it. We'll see this Wednesday and next week. But as of right now, Tom Cruise is not showing up to Revolution. We got Moxley and Hangman in a Texas death match. And then just today after Rampage, it looks like we're going to get the Elite versus House of Black for the Trios title. Okay. And Swerve versus a returning Keith Lee. So as we know, AEW pay-per-views always deliver. Wrestling content is going to be fantastic. Card looks pretty good. I do have some issues though with just there's gonna be less than 2 week build for some of these matches and announcements. But the overall the card looks pretty good. What do you guys think about the 4 matches we know that's guaranteed and the 2 that sure are going to come probably be confirmed this Wednesday?
Where's our lady match at?
Well, we should have a couple, right? We should have Jade hopefully defending her title, and then
Hayter, right?
What does that look like for Jamie Hayter? Yeah.
I mean, I think that at least just the 4 right now, because I'm looking at the cover art so far of the 4 that they have announced prior to today, and I like that. A really, really solid card. And like you said, I don't get disappointed in the match quality in AEW ever. That's kind of our beef, is that they go too fast. Like, just slow down a little bit. There was more blood again this week on Dynamite, but I think we'll talk about that maybe at some point in the show. But no, I'm happy so far with the card. Yeah, the 2 weeks is kind of quick to try to build something, but we see that AEW always is in fast gear, in 5th gear, whatever gear it is. That's the fastest. So I guess it's
Bron Breakker's in 1st gear. Tony is always in 5th gear. That's crazy.
Man, it's becoming very apparent that you guys are much more hype on these AEW shows than I am, man. I'm not excited. I don't think they've given much to be excited about, to be honest with you. Like, I'm gonna watch it, yeah, cause I know what it is. I'm gonna get good wrestling. I'm excited to see. I love seeing Swerve, but the only problem about Swerve, I really only see him on Twitter because I can't find myself wanting to watch Rampage in order to see those different segments. And I can't wait to see Keith Lee again. But to be honest with you, It's not doing it for me. And then Tony keeps promoting most of the card a week before the event, so I can't get too hype about those matches before I see them. So for me, I mean, I'm like at a level 5 right now on the pay-per-view, but I'm sure it's going to deliver, as you said, because of course it's going to deliver. That's what they're known for, is their match quality, which is always super high.
And I think it's so funny. That's a great segue. So let's back up. Last Friday's Rampage did a horrible rating. I think they did like 373,000 people or something like that. And they've been struggling in the ratings, right? So I did a poll on Twitter, and the results were really intriguing. Couple that with the rating from this past Wednesday, which was only about 824,000, I believe. 824,000 people, I think they did for Dynamite. Like I said, Dynamite was not good this week. Everybody has a bad week, whatever. To what you just said, though, E, I think, and it's great for us to have options, right? We know what we get from WWE. I think we're really, really starting to see what we get from AEW. And with AEW, it's the matches. They tell stories, yes, but I think people tune in just for the matches. So check this out. The poll I put up, I think it was on Monday. I said, when do you watch AEW Rampage? This is a question for AEW fans. I gave them 4 options. 1, I watch every week live. I watch if the matches, and I gave a thumbs up. So if the matches are good, I'll watch on DVR later. I only watch Dynamite. Number 1 answer was I only watch Dynamite at 37%. The second answer, I watch if the matches are good. That was 25%. Then we went to I watch every week live at 22%, and I watch on DVR later at 16%. Reason why I share those numbers, if you take the top 2 answers that got the most, I only watch Dynamite and I watch if the matches are good. Put those 2 numbers together, that's 62%. So that's 62% of fans. And once again, this is a small segment of AEW fans that took the poll, but that is 62% of fans that don't watch or only watch if the matches are great. I think that explains the rating from Dynamite this past week. When you looked at everything they had announced, when I looked at it, I'm like, man, this card is not the strongest. Like, it looked like it was kind of just thrown together. I did think they did some really good things with execution. I thought the way they broke up some of the sit-down interviews, I thought that was good. But it wasn't a ton of, like, star power and big matches. And then the rating showed 824,000, whatever I said it was. I think the AEW fans, and there was a lot of discourse on social media afterwards about what's wrong with AEW. As soon as that number came out, it was like, oh, now there's like a 5-alarm fire and AEW is about to go out of business. And just reading some of the comments on it, taking away anybody who was a troll, taking away anybody who was just WWE fans and truly watch both or only watch AEW. I think some of the issues that we have at times with AEW could easily be kind of dismissed because, one, the quality of WWE a year plus ago or so, or because the good things you were getting was so good on AEW, you kind of could just like say, you know what? All right, well, nothing's perfect. There's never been a perfect wrestling show, but they do more things right than not. But just looking at these numbers, I think Tony has set himself up, and this could be a positive thing. You guys tell me if it is or not. If we're not putting on fantastic, top tier, high caliber matches, we're not getting the viewers. And I think that's a slippery slope, because
Absolutely.
where do we get to the point where the investment of the wrestlers is what I'm tuning into the show for? Because we got a pay-per-view in 2 weeks. And for that number, once again, it's a anomaly. We'll see what that number looks like Wednesday. If it's still in that 820, 830 area, okay, we'll get on this, podcast next week and really have a deep dive on what is going on in AEW. But I think that they have now set themselves up as, we are the great wrestling show. And if we don't provide great wrestling or a great lineup, we're not going to get viewers. Rampage last week, I do expect Rampage this week to get a good rating. It came on at, an hour early or hour before SmackDown. So it came on at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, depending on where you live. They had a really strong lineup, so I do think this number is going to be much, much better than the past few weeks. But I'll be honest, this was the first Rampage I've watched in either 2 or 3 weeks. I'll DVR it, and there's times where I'll just forget to watch. And I'll look at the lineup, I'm like, I kind of know what's going to happen. And I kind of don't watch it. So
what I'm about to say is going to be like, are you freaking serious? AEW puts on so many great matches. As far as like the matches itself, they're great. I rarely say, oh, that was a bad match. It's almost like they give us too much good all the time. So when it is by anybody else's standard of good, nobody's going to watch because but I think I even addressed this a couple months ago. You know, Tony is trying to put on, I read a quote that he had said, I forgot, maybe in the Wall Street Journal or something, that said, my job right now is putting on excellent matches every single week. And I think he's still in that mind frame because, like you said, for him, he's only competing against his own self and his own, that's his, like his bar. So it's like you said, if he is constantly putting on great matches, great lineups, and then he have one week where it actually is still a really good show, but it's not great, then people are going to stop watching it. And it's almost like you're doing too much good right now. Give us a little bit of bad. But then again, that's a slippery slope too. It's just a really weird, funky time right now. And I know Hunter taking over creative had a lot to do with this. I'm not going to say had a lot to do with this. It's not making this kind of, it's not making it easier. This is tough for him right now.
Yeah, you guys bring up really a lot of great points. I was nodding my head the whole time you were speaking, Matt, and Rhodesia. You bring up a lot of really good points. Walk with me here for a second. You think about why we all became wrestling fans, right? It's because of larger life personalities and characters and stories. Like for me, when I saw Hulk Hogan, like this big, dude in yellow, and he's talking crazy, acting crazy. I remember the coconut. Roddy Piper overstuck his head. I remember the cartoon. I remember these characters and these personalities, right? Like my kids, my sons, they love the Big Boss Man right now. Like they hit that song so cool. Hard, man. Like they love this dude, his song, the nightstick. He's a character. They love the Ultimate Warrior, right? These men aren't even with us anymore. Right? How are they so gravitating towards these characters? They love Booker T as well. Because Booker T is what? He's a character in a lot of ways. He's a great wrestler, but he's also, can you dig it, sucker? And just everything about him. He has so much personality and charisma. And the thing with the WWE is that they have so many casual fans. And Vince, for years, has been chasing those casual fans to get them to constantly watch the show, kind of like to our dismay, right? We felt like over the years, he was ignoring his hardcore audience. Well, Tony listens to his hardcore audience maybe a little too much. Maybe he's too hardcore of a fan because he's not doing the necessary things to grab the casual audience. And if you look at the ratings, now comparing to WWE, right, their ratings, I think for Raw was like 1.8 or something like that, which was a drop. But WWE has millions of casual fans that tune in and out, depending on what's going on, right? AEW has a different type of casual audience. I don't think their casual audience are the same as WWE's. Their casual audience are other wrestling fans, maybe WWE fans that tune in just to see big matches, tune in just to see the big stars. If there's something going on in the world and social media, on the news, they're going to watch that instead of the show. They have about a good 250,000 or maybe more people who are just tuning in to see the big stuff. And if the only thing that you can give them is big matches, there's going to come a point to where you can't always deliver those good matches, right? But what you can always deliver is awesome stories, awesome characters. Like those things can carry you through a lot of different things. So just bringing it back to tying it with the bow, is that Tony's focus on match quality and not character development is detrimental, because here's the thing about those great matches. You and I might think a match is great, but it might be subjective to somebody else. They may not think so, because look, we talk about a storyline perspective. When you're constantly flip-flopping the Guns as assholes in one segment and the ass boys as favorites in the next segment, and then the next week you got them trading championships. Well, guess what? Just last week, I kind of cared about the ass boys a little bit, so I don't necessarily want to boo them, but guess what? I don't necessarily want to boo the Acclaim either. So when they lose the titles, I'm just going to sit there on my hands and look like, how am I supposed to feel, right? I'm not necessarily invested in this moment. And so you just don't have a lot of investment in the actual product and these actual characters. And all people want to see is blood and guts. You can only deliver so much.
And we saw
you're right.
in AEW, this Dynamite this week.
Yeah, I mean, but we're going to get that, right? But I do think that, and that's fine if that is his business model, if that's AEW's business model, right? We have been to over 11 AEW shows since its existence. So it's not like I'm like, oh man, I'm turning my back on AEW, or I'm not a huge AEW fan. I've been to more AEW shows in the last 3 years than I've been to WWE, probably like times 3.
No doubt.
Right? But I can just look at some of the things that I see as an opportunity, and it bothers me because I can just see it could be much more. I'm never going to be the person that says AEW doesn't tell stories. They do tell stories. But when I look at, and we'll talk about this next week, we're not going to get into this right now. So make sure, mark this down, E, for next week. When you had a golden opportunity to turn MJF face, when he came back at All Out, Tony, I get you probably had a year's worth of storylines set for 2023 to lead up to the whole bidding war 2024. I get all that. You had a golden opportunity to turn him face. And I would go as far to say, if you turn him face, I said before, I think he is somebody that you can put the promotion on their back, and you would have started seeing the rise, significant rise in attendance and in ratings. This week, his segment was flat to what the entire show was. There was no bump. And it's because we don't want to boo you anymore, MJF. Sorry. We don't. We want to cheer you. But you're fighting against it the same way Vince fought against things for years. Where we're like, man, he just needs to give the crowd what they want. Like I said, we'll talk about that next week and kind of look at maybe just what implications that could have done positively to the business if MJF would have gone face instead of staying heel, during this time period. But overall, I think just kind of looking at that poll, and that was for, once again, the diehard AEW fans to say, hey, I only watch Rampage either when the matches are good, or I don't watch Rampage at all. It makes sense why those numbers are what they are. Dynamite gets 76, 900,000. Rampage is getting 450, 400. That it makes sense. So we'll see. We'll see how that looks going forward. But we do, like I said, we do have Revolution in 2 weeks. The awesome thing about AEW though is we get pay-per-view cycles. So you may hate a pay-per-view cycle overall, but then when that pay-per-view hits, we kind of get that. We turn the page. We kind of get the eraser out, and we erase everything, and we lead to that next pay-per-view. So we got 2 weeks until Revolution, and after that, what is it? It's Double or Nothing in May in Vegas. So we'll see what that looks like going forward. This weekend, which you are listening to it now, tomorrow, which is Saturday, is just massive for wrestling fans. We have MJPW, which we're not going to go over right now, but Mercedes' first match since she has left WWE. There is a awesome stipulation for Jay White and Eddie Kingston, which now is basically whoever loses is done with New Japan going forward, which is pretty fantastic. For us in the Chicagoland area, we have Warrior Wrestling. If you are in the Chicagoland area, come out and see us tomorrow for that. And then we got Elimination Chamber, which I'm going to have to watch Elimination Chamber on Sunday morning. So I will be in the bubble tomorrow night, or tonight if you listen to this on Saturday. Let's get into this pay-per-view premium live event. I said a couple weeks ago, typically February used to be No Way Out for WWE. And it was probably the worst, most meaningless pay-per-view all year, because you knew they had to put it on just to put it on. And we were just trying to get to WrestleMania. This year is not it. Every match on here is really, really strong. Let's start with Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. E, I'm going to start with you. Who do you have winning this one, and why?
Man, I honestly don't know or have an answer to that question, but I'm definitely intrigued in seeing the match because, Bobby has been coming off a little more heelish lately, right?
Yeah, he is the heel.
More the heel in this, right? And he's back wearing the suits again. He's back looking like superstar Bobby.
Back looking like her business Bobby.
Yes, sir. That's exactly where I'm going.
Yeah, let's hit that, baby.
It's MVP, far behind. Now, are we going to see Sheldon? Are we going to see the prime Alexander? I mean, if they get involved, what does that mean for the match? We got what's going on with Bray. I mean, it's a lot of ways that this thing can go. That's going to be very, very intriguing. So I mean, if I'm going to have to pick somebody, I'm gonna go with Bobby winning and the Hurt Business reuniting, causing Bobby. I can't get this man's name out of my mouth. What's his name?
Lashley.
Brock.
Bobby Lashley. Brock Lesnar.
Brock. Jeez, Louise. Been a long day, y'all. But yeah, I think Hurt Business is going to cost Brock the match.
Okay.
I
is
like
it now?
Boston.
Is this their second or third match? Why do I feel like this is like
their third match? This is their third match.
So this is their third,
Mhm.
right? So this should be the blow off, right?
Yep, this is it. And that's why my answer is going to be dictated because of that. Brock is going to win.
Who'd you got?
Brock is going to win.
Okay.
It's because Bobby, I believe Bobby won the second one and Bobby won the first one because I think that's when Paul Heyman got involved. So, and Brock Lesnar put in Bobby over.
Bobby won the first one. Bobby won the first one at the Rumble. He won the championship. Remember he messed his shoulder up, but he won the title from him. Then Brock won. Brock won the second one. Right?
I don't remember Brock. No, Brock did not win the second one.
Yeah, it was at Crown Jewel or whatever it was
Crown
called.
Jewel, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was, yep.
And Brock
won? And then, of course,
Brock won.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brock won that one. Remember, then Bobby destroyed him afterwards?
Yep.
Maybe
and then we had the Rumble where
that's what I'm remembering. Okay.
Bobby threw Brock over in like a minute. So Bobby definitely has the upper hand on Brock.
Yeah. Just because I already said it, I'm going to still go with Brock. Brock is going to win. I like Her Business causing the match, but I'm still going to go with Brock. And mainly because Brock has been selling for Bobby like big time. Like, I don't ever see Brock sell for anybody. So this is like, I guess, his receipt in a good way. Brock
yes, you do. Win. Don't do that. Brock sells for everybody.
Whatever.
He sells for everybody. Well, everybody he respects.
No, there we go.
Man,
I remember when he did it John Cena years ago, okay? And they were in that corner and he punched him dead on. From that moment, Brock Lesnar turned me for I will hate him forever. And hate him not in real hate, but for fake hate.
There she is.
Since then, Brock did that to me. I'm like, why is he hitting him so hard? He does realize that this is scripted. He beat John Cena's booty in that corner. You remember that was like 7 years ago. And that's what happened. John Cena pooted because he got hit in the face so hard. Keep going.
Jeez, oh Pete. I'm going. I'm gonna take the whole Bray Wyatt thing out because I just have no idea where they're going.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Conventional wisdom. I was even surprised they were doing this match. I thought something was going to happen on Raw where they was not going to be the contract signing. We would get that match at Mania. Give me Brock. I don't really believe that, but give me Brock. Just because Bobby has the Hurt Business coming, whoever loses, I just don't want them looking bad. Like they need to be protected in this loss. Whatever happens, just protect them in this loss. Yeah.
Regardless, I think they both will be protected.
I mean, who knows? Hell, maybe Bray does something and interfere in the match. I mean, that just really threw me off when he called them out. Like, why would you call those two out of everybody? I can't wait to find out why he would call them out of everybody that's on the card. But I digress. All right, so I'm gonna go Brock just officially, I guess. Edge and Beth Phoenix versus Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley. Eshaun, who you going with?
Oh, this is one of them things. It's no way that Judgment Day can win this match, right? There's no way. There's no way.
See, but I think there is a way.
And I'm thinking Finn takes the pin.
Okay.
Right? Because Rhea has to look strong going into her match. But I think we're going to see an Edge spear on Finn. 1, 2, 3.
Because this is just bragging rights, I think Edge and Beth Phoenix is going to win. What's I'm kind of like so confused on is I really believe Rhea is going to be a face come Mania. So I just want to know how this is going to all start playing out. So maybe they lose and Finn does something to cause them to lose. I don't know, but who's going to win the match? I think it's going to be Edge and Beth Phoenix because it's not like for titles or anything. I think we'll get them to win. But Rhea's going to have to change. She's like in a fork in the road. She's going to have to like split off from Judgment Day.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. because
It's
she's
so
gonna
much-
get
it's
cheered.
juiceless
She's gonna
in the
get cheered
box.
at Mania. She's gonna get cheered crazily at Mania.
So I'm gonna go opposite of you guys on this one, just for the hell of it. I'm gonna go Finn and Rhea. I think that Edge does not. Now this is kind of like, all right, let's think about it from a storyline perspective. We know Rhea she can't take the pin going against Charlotte at Mania, so she's gonna be protected. And Edge doesn't really have a WrestleMania program at all right now. So if he moves away from Judgment Day, who are you going to heat up to go against him in the next 30 to 45 days?
Randy Orton.
I'm
part
going
two.
to. I mean, I thought
Or
about that too,
200,
but we
or
don't.
200.
We don't need to see the world's greatest wrestling match part 2, whatever they tried to sell it a couple years ago.
Right,
That was really bad.
right.
Match was great,
It was a
but
good
like,
match. It was a
don't
good
sell
match.
it as
It was
that.
a really
Yeah.
good match. Yeah.
So I'm going to just assume that this feud is not over until Mania. Just for them, I'm taking Finn and Rhea, and then we get some type of big match with Edge and Finn at Mania. So we'll see. I am going with the Judgment Day on that one. Let's go United States Championship in the Elimination Chamber. Austin Theory, who is the champion, versus Seth Rollins, Montez Ford, Damian Priest, Johnny Gargano, and Bronson Reed. Eshaun, who you got?
I am going to go with Austin. I think that the hottest person in that whole match is of course, Seth. But I don't
Okay.
think Seth needs the championship, especially if I'm thinking about who's going to head into WrestleMania. So I think it'd be more likely that Theory retains and, he has some kind of challenger at Mania. So I'm going with Theory.
Okay.
Whew.
I think that's
I know
I think that's the smart money probably.
I know who's not going to win. I know Gargano's
Who's not winning?
Gonna win. Gargano's not going to win. But it's between Montez and Austin Theory, and I just feel that Austin still deserves the title. So I'm going to still go with Austin Theory.
That's the smart money. And if I was betting, that's who I would put it on, but I'm not betting. So I've gone against you guys before. I'm going to go against
Keep
you
it
guys
going.
again. I'm going to say it's
Keep it
yeah, I'm
going.
going to say it's Tez's time. It's Tez's
Yeah.
time. I do think Austin's going to win, but I also don't think I think we're going to get him and Cena at Mania. I don't think that match needs to be for the title because I think if it's for the title, we know Austin Theory wins. I think if it's not for the title, you kind of don't know who's going to win.
Yeah.
Right? I would love for it to be Montez. And there's a story, and every tag team doesn't have to have the whole, I hate you, we broke up, now let's feud. But this is kind of set up for that. Montez wins his qualifier. Why am I forgetting his name? Help me out.
Dawkins.
Dawkins did not win his.
Nope.
We can see something there with that. So I'm going to go Tez. Let's go Montez.
Something's happening because that Montez was singing to Dawkins the other day. I mean, it got to be some trouble with Paradise. Another man singing to you. You know what I'm saying? Something's happening. So we might be seeing a few, coming up soon with those two brothers.
I think so. And it's going to be some good TV. Women's Elimination Chamber match. This is to go against Bianca. I think this one we're going to be all on the same page on. We got Asuka versus Liv Morgan versus Nikki Cross versus Raquel Rodriguez versus Natty versus Carmella. Eshaun, who you got?
Carmella, 100%.
Oh, okay. So we are not on the same page.
Man,
Rhodesia?
she looks great. She looks great. I love her with her darker hair. Stay like that, Carmella. Wonderful. Come on. Nobody's ready for Asuka. Pew, 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 pew.
And that's what I'm going with without those sound effects.
I can
This
do it
is
for you.
this is Asuka's match to win and to lose. I think anything else just would not make any sense for WrestleMania. I don't want to see anyone else in that match but Asuka versus Bianca for WrestleMania. So there you go. Main event time. Are we giving Sami Zayn any chance in the world to walk out as undisputed Universal Champion?
There's a chance, but it's not a likely chance. It's very improbable. Not impossible, improbable.
Eshaun, your mic is off, sir.
Oh yeah, sorry, but I had to belch, so I had muted. But yeah, I'm not sure I'm gonna go with a championship change.
Okay.
But I think we're definitely going to see some kind of furthering of the storyline, right? Like with the Usos,
Oh, big time.
Because they say they can't come, right? But that doesn't mean that they won't. I think something definitely is going to be a big storyline.
Yep.
Occurrence on this show, and that's what I'm really excited about, more so than the winner of this match. Do I think the Sammy's good? I mean, there's a chance, like Rhodesia said. I mean, it's a chance he can win it, but I think it's more likely we're going to get a huge storyline reveal on this one. Where does Cody come into play? Where does KO come into play? Where does the Usos come? I mean, it's so many different scenarios. Like, it's so much intrigue for me in this main event. Like, what's the next chapter to the story? I don't think it's going to end with Sammy becoming champion. But hey, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he did win, right? I mean,
I would be shocked. I would be absolutely shocked if he did win. Yeah, I mean, I would pop for it Sunday morning when I'm watching, but I would be absolutely shocked if Roman does not go into WrestleMania as the Universal Champion. So as much as I would love for something to come out of this where Sammy is still involved in the main event program going into Mania, I think we know that's probably not the way they're going with it. So, of course, I'm going to take Roman Reigns. I just don't want... I think we get Kevin Owens' return. We haven't seen him, of course, since Royal Rumble. They're in Montreal, so I think it's fantastic that they're going to get that moment. I just don't want Sammy to be dropped down a level after this match. That's my only worry. I'm hoping not. He's done some fantastic work. Of course, I think a report just came out a couple days ago, talked about how now he's looked at as a ratings mover because when he's on TV, the ratings go up. Now, granted, whenever he's on TV right now, he's either been on TV with Roman in the Bloodline or on Cody. So it's not like he's carrying a segment by himself per se or with Heyman. But I just don't want him dropping. And I'm not saying that him and KO going after tag titles is a drop if it's presented properly against the Usos. But I just think there's a lot to this story that they could still peel back some layers on this. So I'm hoping, my biggest hope out of all this is there is something that is unexpected that happens at the pay-per-view for the main event. That's my hope. I don't care. Yeah. Like somebody, that was one of the theories. Rock comes back and costs Roman. Sammy wins. So you get Sammy and Cody at Mania, and you get Roman and Rock at Mania. At this point, I ain't got no words for The Rock until he shows up. He is doing everything in the world. He shows up at the Grammys.
Yep.
He's doing everything but what we need him to do, and that is to come back for his cousin. So until he shows up, I think I'm not even going to acknowledge him at all going forward. So should be a fantastic show. I am super excited to see this one, and that is once again this weekend. So anything else you guys want to bring up or want to discuss before we get into our TFW moments of the week?
I have 3 statements. 1, I loved on Raw backstage interview, the girl from Maxim MMM, whatever the name of their group, calling Otis Otis. Oh, that was so beautiful. I love that. He's
the ladies' man, isn't he? He is the first Mandy. Now
this. So we need to holler at Otis. So Otis, I'm actually not going to say this other one because it's negativity, so I'm not going to put that out there.
No, say it. Go ahead. Do it.
Still not feeling Michin. So I don't think I think it's because with AJ getting hurt and kind of the breakup of their group, I think that's kind of is she's just fallen victim to that kind of that storyline stopping.
Yeah, like it feels off. Something feels like it's missing with her right now.
But great talent again. I'm just not feeling her right now. And then the last one is, do y'all care about Christian being back on AEW?
Yes,
he's still feuding with Jungle Boy, so he's coming back to that same story.
Yeah, I think so. Because Jungle Boy needs to get that big win over him. Which that's probably another match we'll get at Revolution. So good call there. But no, I was happy to see him.
Okay.
We know the match is going to be good. We know he's a great talent in regards to even just backstage helping the younger talent. He can still go in the ring. Is it something that like I would just completely, utterly go out of my way for a Christian program? No, but I was happy to see him, and I am excited for that match.
I guess I'm in the minority. I'm actually was very. That's one of my moments from the show was Christian coming back. I love his heel work. I think he's one of the best promos in that company. I think he's a little bit of a different heel than MJF. I felt like whereas MJF is trying so hard to be unlikable and to be this heel, like whereas Christian just commands it. He just seems like a villain. He just seems like a villain. He comes out there, and I think he just commands it. I love that he's back. But keeping with the AEW thing, I think we got I missed it myself actually, but another act I missed was House of Black. So we're gonna get them back hopefully soon. We got Christian on the show. Some of my favorites are coming back on my TV. I couldn't be more happy about that.
I lied. I have a fourth thing because
what is your fourth thing?
It's so important. And I'm not talking about the match quality itself, but I am so happy that just AEW Dynamite and Raw this week ended with women's main events. And if you rewind a few years ago, it was such a big effing deal for women to main event a TV show. And for it to start happening more and more and more, and then this week alone, we have Raw and Dynamite in one women's match. I just think that is just showing so much progress. And it's almost becoming norm. And that's, we just have to evoke change. And to me, I'm really proud because, again, most people probably didn't even realize, oh, wow, it did end with two, women's matches. But that's just something that I see. And I know when I was watching this was not the case. We were in bra and panties. Ain't nothing against a woman who wants to flaunt around in bra and panties. But, that's
got that right.
That's what I had before.
There's nothing against. There's nothing. You understand what I'm saying to you? There is nothing against. If they want to bring back bra and panties, I'm here for it. I will respect it. I would appreciate it. I know Eshaun feels me.
Anyways, point is, I just want to say that they're making it to a point where it is no longer, oh my God, it's the first. They're making it a norm. So, and then thank you to the guys too for allowing them to take that spot, not, welcoming them to that spot, and the people who the powers that be putting them in that spot, taking those chances. So shout out to all of wrestling. Amen.
Hey, staying with that same love, in that AEW main event, I feel like I would have felt more strongly about Toni Storm poking out her booty and letting Saraya spray something all over it. I felt like that would be a bigger moment for me, but it just wasn't. It felt flat. And so when you talk about like the Saraya storyline, that's really intriguing. Like something about that moment was taken from me. Look at how flat her story's been. Saraya.
Well, you're right, because I was like, why is she putting an L on her booty? Like, I get what the point was, is to make it smash on her face. But like, you're marking your own girl as an L. Like, no, like I didn't get it either.
Y'all done ragging on my girl, Saraya?
No, I'm not ragging on Saraya.
Are you done?
I'm done. Are you finished or are you done?
Right. Come on, Birdman. TFW Moment of the Week. Rhodesia, hit that beautiful jingle.
TFW Moment of the Week. Pew!
You felt it this week. I like that. Mine is Cody and Sammy from Monday Night Raw. And I just thought that Cody did such a fantastic job of cheerleading for Sammy. There were a lot of people that was worried about, hey, will Cody start getting booed because people wanted Sammy? And they did everything they needed to do over the last 2 weeks. Last week with Heyman telling that personal story. This week with Cody trying to get Sammy to believe in himself, to go out there and do what he needs to do. He said, hey, I don't want to see you next Monday. I want to see you at WrestleMania. I just thought that was a really, really good piece of business. Once again, a lot of my moments of the week, not matches, it's moments. And I've always talked about how, as wrestling fans, we remember moments. And it's not all about moves and matches. It's things that you remember after the show. And for me, that was probably the biggest thing by far from that show. Was Cody and Sammy. They both did a masterful job. So kudos to both of them. Awesome, awesome job. Rhodesia, what is your moment of the week?
Well, this week we celebrated a very romantic day in Valentine's Day. And so my moment of the week is Mommy's and Dominic's first Valentine's Day dinner. Maybe the last two, but it's their first Valentine's Day dinner. They show up to the restaurant, for those who haven't seen, and their reservation is stolen. Oh, someone already got your reservation. It was Ray and Angie eating up all the food, drinking up all the fine bottles of wine and champagne. After they got him kicked out, he's like, oh, let me, he being Dominic, is like, oh, bring me the finest wine, the finest champagne you have, the most expensive one. Boom. At the end, he's like, here's a tab. Put it on the tab. And he's like, oh, no, there's no tab. And the guy before you, whatever. So he had to pay, naturally, everything for the whole night. And we know what happens. Credit card gets declined. So at this point, Dominic's fight or flight reaction was to flight. And he took off, leaving Mommy to pay the bill in cash. And the look of disgust she had in her face, that's why I said that I think this would be their last Valentine's Day dinner as well. Is this the beginning of Rhea Ripley completely leaving the Judgment Day? Because she has a cheap-ass boyfriend and feels as buddies.
You also forgot about bringing the finest chicken fingers.
There it is. That was the moment. That was the moment of all of that.
You're right.
I thought it was me ordering when he said that.
Right, straight up. We all been there. But look, I know I told you what my moment of the week would be, but honestly, my moment of the week is Mark Briscoe on AEW performing, man. I am like so super ecstatic around his performance and how he's able to finally represent them boys, the Briscoes, on TV, and this how well he's doing from a just life. It's a lot happening, man, for him. And to see him on TV performing the way he's performing, wrestling, character, showing people how to do it and showing that he belonged on TV long ago, man.
Yep.
For me, Mark Briscoe doing his thing, being that character, having great matches, that's freaking wrestling for me. I'm super excited to have him on my television.
Love it. Another successful episode, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate it. Like I said, this one got to you a little late, but hey, we delivered nonetheless. Do me a favor. Do us a favor. Spread the word, guys. Sub to the pod so you don't miss anything from the three of us. Hit that follow button, subscribe, and share to support us and what we're doing with TFW. Also, give us a follow at Twitter at That's FNW. And do not forget, we have the full episodes on YouTube now at That's Freaking Wrestling. As always, thank you for listening. We will talk to you next week.